right, welcome everyone, and this is me. Actually, this is the new Richard. So Dave, you got to move your lips while I'm talking, right? Just pretend you're me. Hi, I'm Richard Carlton. No? That would have been fun. No? Okay, we're going to try that. We were having fun with that. Sorry about that. Hi everyone, welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker live training. We are on a slightly different computer. I'm in the same kind of studio. This is the normal system here. This is the laptop. So it's my new portable system. I'm configuring it just to do broadcasts just for you. This is Dave Henderson. Some of you have seen Dave before. He's going to unmute himself. Hi, Dave. How are you? You want to say hi to everyone?
Hello, everybody.
That's Dave in his bedroom there. He doesn't do too many broadcasts when he's not counting the cash, right? Stacks of cash, right? So, because we pay him in stacks of $100 bills. But Dave is one of our senior engineers. He was helping me test this stuff, and then I said, well, Dave, we're talking about the recovery command today, answering questions. We started the conversation yesterday on this. And really, there are three commands that have this similar sort of thing. It's a process that you run on a file, and when the process is done, something comes out the other end. So the three things are save a clone, which it's a very therapeutic process. It makes a copy of the file schema only. So it's layout, objects only, structure, layout, scripts, custom functions, everything's in there. No user data. No data that would be imported in browse mode or typed in browse mode. No data like that is in it. So that's a clone. Save a compressed copy is another therapeutic thing that you can do. We've talked about this quite a bit yesterday. If you have a file that's misbehaving, you can start with that and use that. And so those are the two, what I would call, well, I would say not invasive, right? It's not going to like really, it's like they're like therapeutic. Now, of course, if you're expecting your data to be in the file after you clone it, then it removes all the data. I could understand where you think that's bad, but generally that's a known thing. No data should be in it after the clone is completed. The compressed copy actually reorganizes, does a lot of maintenance. It's very useful. It doesn't give you too much of a breakdown of what it's done, but it spends a lot of time reorganizing the guts of FileMaker. Once again, this broadcast actually is, and once again, we're still configuring our mobile machine. So as we travel across the countryside, we'll be able to visit people. If I go to fmtraining.tv, you can see the website right here. I need to make it bigger and move this out of the way, or make myself smaller and out of the way. But you can see the upcoming broadcast schedule if you press the live training button right there. Pretty much everyone here is watching has already bought our training. We really appreciate it. Some of you have not bought the training. And those people should definitely look at buying one of our bundle packages we have right here. This is by buying this material, buying this training, these training packages here. You can get all the FileMaker training you need. If you're fairly new and you need a copy of FileMaker to learn, FileMaker Pro, Mac or Windows to learn, it's an annual license that includes with our training here. It's really quite good. There's no other training curriculum like this in the FileMaker platform, period. There's a little bit that's done on Lynda. There's a little bit that Claris does, but where we do 60, 80, 90 hours just for FileMaker Pro, they'll do about 10 hours a year. It's just not comparable, plus the live streams, etc. So the platform is just really a large platform. There's a lot of video. We produce end-to-end editing on a yearly basis, probably close to 1,000 videos. It's quite an undertaking. As a result of that, we have to pay the budget on the video guys to edit it. Not even my time, but the time of the video editors that come in and edit it. So it's a lot. So feel free to support us. Let people know about buying the bundle. You can buy it with a credit card right there, and that would be very helpful. This is a PDF that was created by Stephen Blackwell, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but the idea is to outline where the recover command is useful, where it should be used, and every once in a while, I mean, like he starts off with this and starts pontificating about Winston Churchill. Okay, I'm pretty sure that has nothing to do with recovery, but Stephen's kind of this chatty kind of guy when it comes to writing. He writes like I talk, and he gets off topic pretty easily. So he's all over the place in this. But the short version of this is that you don't want to use recovery. So like you have these three commands we talked about. It's a save a compressed copy, save a clone, and the recover command. Generally, the clone can be useful for sending someone a file with no data in it. Like sometimes we'll show a customer file. They'll say, take our data out, we'll make a clone of it, right? That's a helpful way of doing that. But these tools are basically the backup tools, right? It's like if you have a fire extinguisher in a house, right, or in your business, you have a fire extinguisher on the wall, okay, and you hire employees that are in the company or office kitchen, and they are routinely setting fire to the counter in there because they're trying to cook their food. Okay, they're cooking their food by lighting a fire with wood on the counter. And so the recover command is like a fire extinguisher, okay? And so if you do that every day and you blow that thing off, every day you shoot it and then you somehow recharge it, put it back on the wall, and every day you're using this, eventually your counter is going to be screwed up if it's not screwed up from the first day. And eventually your kitchen is just going to burn to the ground. It's going to be very bad. So it's a backup process. People like to treat the recover command like it's their primary tool for stopping. When we're done cooking our steak or cooking our vegetarian food or whatever we're eating, cooking our burrito or whatever in the microwave, when we're done, we always put out the fire. But instead of turning off the gas or whatever we're using or shutting off the microwave, we just use fire extinguisher to blow the fire out, okay? It's really stupid. Don't do that, because every time the recover command is a backup to the backup. Your main process is that if you have a problem with the FileMaker file, you go to a backup. If you crash the FileMaker server, you go to a backup. So it's so critical, because I have people in here, they're going, yeah, tell me about the recover. But they don't take the first part of it seriously. What we're talking about right now is the process you're going to follow when for some reason lightning strikes your office and all your backups go down and your database server goes down and all you have is a one crash copy of FileMaker. That should be the kind of scenario that you're running into, right? Dave, you have anything to say on this right here at all?
Nope, you're covering it pretty well.
Okay, so the recover command, so you run into recover, but it's because you're doing customer projects and every once in a while they will crash their file locally and not, think about that, etc.
Yes, and I also have customers, like you said, that do not take backups seriously. They have an issue and there's no other way for them to recover.
And I don't even know why they don't back up. I mean, I got into a huge argument with some of the, I could name the person's name, and he's not watching this. He doesn't, he's a paid staff at Claris. Nice guy, really nice guy. But they would back up their databases once a day. So this was literally the conversation I had. And they go, you back it up once a day? I go, well, if you crash, you roll the last backup. He goes, no, we don't. We just use the crash file. And I go, are you crazy? And so this was his logic. So if you're this person, this is the only person get away with this. Well, if we have a problem with the file, we get on our phone, because we're on the second floor of the Claris building where we make FileMaker. We call the first floor where the engineers are. They come up and have to triage our file, tear it apart, and fix it for us. And I go, so if you have unlimited access to engineering resources and you don't care that you're wasting their time, that you could prevent all this. Well, he goes, well, the database is so big it takes too long to back up. I said, well, if you buy solid state drives or bigger drives, you could back it up in 60 seconds or 120 seconds or something. Oh, no, they don't want to make the money in this. And so this is even Claris doing this. So even Claris has done this, but their backup strategy was that the engineers downstairs come upstairs like doctors, cardiac paddles, doctor, scalpel, and they're in there fixing the file. Who else has access to those people? I don't. So the idea is that this is the backup. We're talking about the fire extinguisher. So what does the fire extinguisher do? The fire extinguisher does two things. Three things. It will run analysis on the file. And those of you we showed some of this yesterday. I can do the recovery or whatever you want to do, but the point is that you're going to run to run a recovery, you have to have a file that needs to be recovered, right? Start with that. And then, and I need a FileMaker file. Where would I find a FileMaker file that's homeless that needs to be recovered? I'm basically on a brand new laptop with almost no sample files on it, so that becomes the next trick that we have to do. But I need to go into FileMaker and identify. So if I create a new file and then you want to recover the file, right? So here's FileMaker. You can say, now to run any of these three commands, clone, compress, or recover, the file has to be locally accessible on your computer. It cannot be hosted on the server. So these are things that you can't do because it's hosted on a FileMaker server, a FileMaker cloud. You have to get the file and bring it down to your computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say File. I'm going to go up. I'm going to create a basically a new blank file. I can say make it out of this solution right here, save it to the desktop, which is great. It'll save it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some data in here. I create a new record, put some data in here if I can, type some stuff. It's kind of a little goofy interface. This is a post-nic file. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and force quit FileMaker. So I'm going to forcibly crash FileMaker, which is forcibly going to potentially damage this file. Okay. Now the file may or may not tell me that, but this is one of those deals where if you crash FileMaker, at this point you need to go to a backup. If you're doing local development, oh, I want to do local development. I don't want to buy a server. Okay, but every time you crash, you have to go to a backup, which means about every hour, whenever I do this, about every hour, I close a file, I duplicate it. You have to duplicate it while it's closed, not while it's open, while it's closed. And then I just drag that copy into the trash can. So it's in the trash can. If I need it, I'll go dig it out and find it. You cannot duplicate the file on your computer while it's running, okay? Right? That creates a corrupted copy. A copy of a FileMaker file can only be made when the file is shut down. It's in a safe condition, right? That's why FileMaker Server is so important. It actually, when you tell it to make a backup, it pauses the file, it does some magic to get the file into a safe state, then it duplicates it. And then it spins it back up so everyone can use it. Now, people are still logged onto it, but during that split second, a couple seconds where it's making the backup, everyone's kind of paused. You used to get this coffee cup, right? The coffee cup with steam coming out. That was meant for you to go get a coffee while it's running the backup, okay? They don't really do that anymore. Most of the time, you don't notice it doing it because most people have faster servers or faster drives. But you also have bigger files, too. It's not uncommon to find people with 4 or 5 gigabyte files real easy. And so... So the issue is now we have this file. It's on the desktop down here. It's potentially damaged. What are we going to do? We're going to open up FileMaker. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that briefly. So I'm going to say run a recover. So the file is closed. I'm going to say run the recover command. And FileMaker Pro would like to access the files. We're going to say yes. It's a new computer. I'm on the desktop. I'm going to say identify the contacts file. And I'm going to use the advanced options right here. So up here at the top, I've never used the block copy as. This is a logical structure right here. We talked about this briefly yesterday. This kind of makes a compacted copy. A compacted copy is just therapeutic reorganizing. Like if you have a really messy binder of files or papers in a binder, right? You have a binder and you have all these notes and there's paper stuck in there sideways. You rip them out, you put them back in. It's all kind of... The old term that my grandmother would use is cattywampus. It's crooked. It's not straight. So what FileMaker does, opens it up, and it resorts all the pieces of paper in there in the correct order, gets them straightened out, everything that should be there, any extra piece of paper that are in there, it doesn't know where they go, whoosh, removes them. And so that's what the compressed copy does. A recovery does that as well. But if it finds something it doesn't like, it will rebuild it. And if it can't rebuild it, it will theoretically remove it out of the file. So if it finds a field definition, a field in like, you go to define fields in that one specific field called first name, contact first name, it's internally corrupted. You can't see it. All you know is FileMaker's acting weird. You type into a field, it won't let you type into it. It crashes weirdly. It behaves strangely. If you're a brand new FileMaker person, you don't know what strange is. You don't know what to expect. So if you're a brand new FileMaker person, this is a hard conversation to understand. But if you've been using FileMaker for a month or two, kind of pretty much every day, you start to get an idea. I press Command F or Control F, you get fine screen, you do browse mode, certain things happen. Some things may not be as fast as you like, but they are kind of predictable. When things become unpredictable, like you get to one layout, like a classic case from the old days. Customer says, I go to a layout, I print the layout, FileMaker crashes. Or I press this button and it always crashes, okay? That's always a clue that when you press that button, it's running a script, and that script is touching something that's corrupted, and FileMaker goes, ah, and it crashes, okay? And so the idea is that the recover command will do some basic cleaning for you, but then it will generally, in my experience, identify the problem children. It doesn't remove them. It says it removes them. It says it can remove them. I think that your file has to be pretty far gone for that to happen. Generally, my experience is it'll identify a field or a table or an object on a layout and says this is damaged and I can't fix it. And that is your clue when you read the log to go in there and identify the things that are broke and to manually remediate them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use these default settings here. Scan the data, rebuild the fields and indexes in the schema, scan and rebuild the scripts and the layouts in the structure, rebuild the field indexes. We always talk about how to rebuild indexes. There's two ways of doing it. You go into FileMaker, open the file, go into field definitions and remove the index, and then FileMaker will rebuild the index if it needs it, or you can come into here to do it. So two ways of rebuilding an index. That's really important because if you do say you do a find, this happens once about every 2 years to me, 3 years to me. Say I do a search on Dave Henderson, gentleman who's here with us, and I do a search on I don't type this full name. I just type DA and then HE, and it comes back with no records in the database. And I know that's BS because I know Dave is in there. That means that the index is corrupted, or there's a problem with the index, or somehow it's not happy. And so what you have to do is rebuild the index. That's not a corrupted file. The index is automatically generated data, but it's really data that it's easy to throw away and to have FileMaker rebuild it for you. That is not a crisis, but you need to identify it for what it is. So if you have a relationship that just refuses to work, relationship uses indexes, right? Left side, right side. I don't know if you guys can see my fingers here, right? Left side and right side. And if a relationship this is why when I'm training, I don't use UUIDs. Why don't you use UUIDs? Because a long string attacks is hard to train people. But if you have a primary key that's 1001, it's a serial number, 1001, 1002, 1003, and you see it over here, and you know that they match, and you know the relationship should work, and you're positive, and you showed your friend and they say it doesn't work, then that means that the index has to be rebuilt. And how you rebuild it, this is one of the ways. You could run the recover on it and maybe turn off these other items over here and just have it do the index rebuild, right? Not a bad idea. Something to think about. That's a good technique. So I'm going to say okay. It's going to say, where would you like the recovered file? And I'm going to save it to the desktop. Normally, it does some things, some screens flip and pass and happens. And then you're going to get one of three things that's going to happen. One is it's going to say, hey, there's nothing wrong with the file. Probably. But keep an eye on it. So that's what this says. It says, hey, we ran the recovery. We didn't detect any problems. Basically, this is, just imagine a lawyer talking here. This is Claris's legal team talking, like Apple's legal team, right? The lawyers, you always hear about Apple lawyers, okay? Here they are, okay? And they're saying, we think the file's good. It's probably good. Keep an eye on it. If it's not good, don't sue us, is basically what this says, okay? The other message that can come up, it says, we found problems with the file. Don't use it. Go use a backup, okay? But if you follow the proper procedures, there is no backup. This is basically you pull the fire extinguisher off the wall and says, hey, the fire in the kitchen, you should have just put that out by turning off the gas on your stove or turning off the electricity on your microwave, right? If you have to pull the fire extinguisher and you're using it like you're supposed to, we're way past normal operations, right? Using a backup, okay? And so then Claris says, hey, you should use a backup. Just use this for a reference. Don't really use it. That's their legal team saying, you might be totally screwed. You may not have a backup, but we don't want you to use this file because it probably has an issue, and we don't want to legally be on the hook for it, okay? So once again, that's the warning stickers, the legal readme on the side of a fire extinguisher. If you use this fire extinguisher, your house still might burn to the ground, and don't sue us. So understand that's another possible message. So nothing is wrong. Something seems to be wrong. And then the third message is it's the people who try to take a fire extinguisher and the house is already fully on fire. The fire extinguisher can't put it out. It's unsalvageable, okay? You'll get that message as the recovery cannot be completed. The file is too heavily damaged. Have a nice life. It doesn't even bother saying, please don't use this. No legal stuff. It just says it's unrecoverable is the term. So understand that the three messages are, it's fine. We think it's pretty good. You're fine, which you can take to the bank. It's pretty clean. Second one is stuff might be a problem, which case we want to investigate the log. And the third one is it's beyond salvage. It's unrecoverable. So the three things that you can run into. Okay. Now you get this log file, which is right here, and the log file is going to run an analysis. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here for us so we can see this. I need to install. Jacob, what is that? We use Creela. What is the text editor we like to use? Right. Yeah, I don't have my firefighting gear on me here, but yes, it's what's the text editor we use? Is it the Crela, the little snail one or whatever it is? It's a little the text editor, Sublime Text and the owl. Yeah, Sublime Text. So I'm going to see if I can zoom in. Can I zoom in on this? Is it going to let me zoom in? Reload. I'm in the console. So yeah. So basically, the short version of this is it starts at the top. It's running everything. This is every object that looked at in the file in the starter solution. Okay, and it does this. It does this. It does this. A lot of this is just basic maintenance. Like, this wasn't really organized the best it could be. I'm going to fix this for you. A lot of this is just, I'm going to rebuild the index. Remember, we told it to rebuild the indexes. It didn't say the indexes, the checkbox didn't say rebuild the indexes if they're broke. We said rebuild them, period. So it's going to rebuild all the indexes. You'll see that in here. Rebuilding this index, rebuilding the value list, things like that. And so it gets to the end, and so that paragraph of text that you had at the end that was over here, the little summary, is also in text form right down here at the bottom. The recovery built a new file without detecting problems. The new file is safe to use, probably, but you should monitor the results and make sure to keep an up-to-date backups of your database. Okay, and so this file is fine. This is normally what, if you see this, you're great. What happens is if it says something along the lines that the file, it found problems, and so the idea is to remediate those issues. And the way you remediate the issues, once again, for those who remember this from yesterday, is to identify the error message. The error will be where it's like rebuilding something and you see a problem, a corrupted object. The error message will be right below the affected item. So if you found an error message here, it would say, it says, I have this error. But when in the error message, it won't say with an it's like a verb, it's an incomplete sentence, a sentence fragment. It says, hey, there was an error here, and at this date and time, I saw this error. It doesn't tell you what the noun was of the error. The noun of what the error is talking about is the line above. Super important that you understand that. It's not obvious. It's like one of those like little subtle things, right? But it's the line above. And so people, what the technique to do is, once again, this is after you have no backups, you're out of all these things, you run the recover, then you run a recover on the recovered file, okay? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the low-hanging fruit out of the way, all the easy things that are simple for the recovery to fix. You're trying to isolate the real damage components, right? And I've done this before. Once upon a time, we did this on Starting Point years ago, and it was because we were trying to figure out what had happened because we had a guy add a couple fields, and there was a contractor that was helping us in Las Vegas. He added a couple fields, and suddenly we were having problems with the file. And we did a recover on it, and it said that these fields that this guy defined were corrupted. So we don't know how we managed to do that. We don't even care. We went into the system and totally removed those objects. We did not recreate them because we determined we didn't need them. There were 2 field definitions. So we ended up deleting the fields. If you wanted the fields, you could put the fields back in. You cannot copy and paste. Copy it, delete it, paste it back in. That doesn't count because when you're copying it, you're copying the XML code that defines it. Remember, FileMaker under the hood now can be described as XML. You're copying that code, okay? And if it's corrupted in the XML, you're going to paste it back with the XML. So you copied the corruption, you pasted it back in. You have to create it from scratch manually by hand. Oh, it's such a drag. I'd rather copy and paste, but because you really can't see what you're copying and pasting. And even if you could, we showed you the XML code. Could you identify the corruption of this call? If there's 100 people watching this video, 2 of you could probably identify the corruption. I don't know that I could, unless it was really obvious. And even then, I don't know how I'd correct it. So you got to rebuild it. So that is the process, the critical process, okay, that you've got to go through if you're going to remediate. Now, some people say, well, I've got a good clone of the file. This is the other thing that you can do. I haven't mentioned this. This is new from today, is that you can take a clone of the file that's clean. You can make a clone, then run the clone through the recover. It says, oh, the clone's fine. Okay, great. Then you can import the data from the other file, okay? But you can't use the data migration tool, okay, because it will move the corruption over too. You cannot, what you actually have to do is you have to export all those tables and all those records as basically a comma or tab separated format, It forces it to render it out. And I've actually seen corruption in the record where it's like Sally, like a column of rows in a spreadsheet. Sally, Jane, Dick, Smith, Henry, DK, blah, 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 blah. And then this, like a bunch of, it looks like a UID that's smashed in there. It's like corruption, right? And you see that in the text export before you import it, and you go, aha, delete, right? And then if you want, you can do that. And then you import it back into your clone. That is a process. It's very time consuming, very tedious. That's why people just use the crash files. Hey, well, let's just keep using the crash files because it's not my company and I don't care. And if it gets bad enough, I'll quit and go work somewhere else. That happens. We know. I can name names of companies with staff who do that. Not good. Not good. So, questions from the troops. Wymarin says, my scenario is the file is open on the server but exhibiting weird behavior, missing parolles, freeze. Do I recover? The answer is, okay, so so first off, if someone came to me and says, hey, this file is acting squirrely, I would say, how long has it been acting squirrely? Okay, have you made changes to the file lately? We can assume, let's assume that the database is in use every day by people, every day, and they're entering data. So suddenly along the way, it starts acting squirrely, okay? My inclination is not, I can't give you like a single pass of things to do on this, but let's start with the least invasive or dangerous technique. I would take the file down. I would rebuild the indexes on it. I would go to save the copy as, but I would do the index rebuild on it. Rebuild the indexes and see what that gives. I'd also run a compressed copy on it. So run a compressed copy, won't rip anything out, and then rebuild the indexes. Compressed copies do not rebuild the indexes, so you have to do a two-step process. Rebuild the indexes, run a compressed copy, post it up and see if it's still having the problem. If it still has the problem, then you need to take the next step. Now, of course, the first step would be to go to a backup. But we're assuming that this has been slowly happening over a period of time, and you can't establish what backup you might go to. Now, if you haven't been making any structural design changes to the file, you could say, well, in June was the last time I made, so June 15th I made the last set of change, structural schema changes. People have been adding data since then. So I could go back to say July 1, or right after that point, get a clone of that file, re-import the data. Okay, so the question is where is the damage at, right? Or is it even damaged? I think if you have a file that's misbehaving or a relationship's misbehaving, you really need to make sure it's not you, not understanding how the relationship works. But beyond that, the indexes need to be rebuilt. And that's not totally uncommon. Dave, how often have you had an index problem where it was a find or a recover? What's your experience with that?
That's probably the most common experience I've had. No, well, actually, I do have something to add. When you're doing these procedures, make sure you use a copy of the file. That way, if something goes wonky, you can always start over again. That's something that you didn't mention, and it's something that has bitten me in the butt in the past.
Yeah, you need to copy the file down from the server, do it locally. Unless it's too far of a file, it's too far to copy, then you're going to do it on the server. But if you're doing it on the server and you're using FileMaker Pro and the server's still serving, that's just...
No, that's not quite what I mean. Once you take a copy of the file off the server, do whatever you're going to do on a copy of that file. I've had the experience where I just took a copy off the server. I had one copy of the file. I started doing something to it, and whatever process I was doing went wonky. And so I had to go back to the server and drag another copy of the file, or I could have just made a copy of the file on my desktop. It's a lot more convenient when you run into a problem.
You need to be very organized when you do this. Very organized. Michael Gravel, questions about this stuff. It's like one of the more kind of important skills to have, right? To understand this stuff and to understand that it is the fire extinguisher on the wall. It's like you always see those people, how to not cook Christmas turkey dinner or Thanksgiving turkey dinner, and they throw a frozen turkey in the boiling oil or something, and it explodes or something. There's some sort of combination of frozen turkey and oil that's bad. I don't do turkey like that, so Yeah, you know, so Bob is saying baby steps, don't go all crazy. So this is once again, the Discord people are providing advice to Wymiran. Glad you came today again. Um, and start slow but move from there. So he has a follow-on question. I could do a recover with drop indexes and not rebuild, and then the FM rebuild necessary. This will get rid of many indexing. Yeah, you could try that. It will. Some of them will rebuild because it needs them for the relationship. I would definitely start with that. Run a, do this process, then open it up locally, and then see if the kind of the relationships are working. It will rebuild them as it needs them. Nick Hunter always likes to have those turned off. I would just tend to have them rebuild it right on the spot. Whether you rebuild them now or rebuild them later, just kicking the can down the road. Odds are that most of the ones that have been indexed are going to need to be indexed again. But once again, unnecessarily indexing fields adds bulk to the file, makes it bigger. But yeah, it's up to you. I think you're split. I think the first step I would do is, I would look at a compressed copy and then rebuild the indexes. The first thing I would do and see what happens. So yeah. So Dan is there, but Dan isn't there, but Dan is there now. Jericho. We had some work to do, so just listing. Yeah, very useful info. Have not had to use it yet. So here's David Angel. Okay, David Angel. Okay, thank you, David, for pointing out the most great thing. He says, very useful info. I hope not to have to use it. Okay, if you are very dedicated to the concept of backups and you follow them religiously, and you never use crash files. Odds of you needing this are really some. Claris doesn't just get corruption randomly. We're kind of past those years. Back in the FileMaker 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days, they would actually have bugs in the product that would create corruption. For certain versions of FileMaker back 15, 20 years ago, if you're hosting it on server and you do field definitions and you crash while in field definitions, that file is a throwaway. The server, it would destroy the file. And so that was a kind of a big negative about it, right? Makes sense. So they have fixed that. Obviously, they fixed that. That's why you'll run into some developers. They'll be like, and they're older developers. They'll be like, yeah, I don't do development on the live server because I might crash and then it would corrupt it. That person is out of date. Okay. Now, if you don't want to do development because you might interrupt a user who's doing things, that's a valid reason. Okay. But worried about it corrupting a file if you crash is not a valid reason anymore. Michael, I was paving way into that and I almost forgot and he reminded me. Structural defects. Let's talk about structural defects. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to turn my face a little bit so we can't see Clarice anymore. Dave, you there? So Dave, what is the Deadbird database and tell us why you like it because I'm about to go in there right now.
The Deadbird database is basically the repository of knowledge that has been gathered by all of the employees at RCC that have been around. And it is a great place to find things that you have forgotten about or things that you did not know in the first place. I use it all the time.
Okay, so this is the Deadbird repository. We've seen this before. Everyone should have one of these where you stick, or it's like your junk drawer where you stick all your random sample files that Nick gives you or whatever, little not bits of knowledge, PDFs, like that recovery PDF. There's a copy in here somewhere. I want to do the search for structural defects. Here's a discussion, okay? So this goes way back, but it's not ever been, so this is a tech talk conversation that was buried. Let me see if I can pop this up. This goes way back in the day. FileMaker Technical Network, yeah. So basically, I'm willing to post this for you folks to read through, but the short version, this guy has passed away. There's a lot of old people in here. But the idea was structural defects, and I'll let you read this, and I can summarize this for you. Once again, this is, unless you were here in this, listen, no one else on the internet's going to give you this, but we have the data. I'm going to give it to you. So while you're here, this is a one-off thing. Go try to find structural defects FileMaker. See if you can find anything. Doesn't exist, but we have it. We cover it in our book, and we cover it here. So a structural defect is when FileMaker, you could consider it corruption, but they somehow build something in the example that that Clay would give me would that they had for example, in for early versions of FileMaker Server, and this could even, they could have, I think they've even had structural corruption even back within the last couple of years. It's nothing you ever notice. But what happens, it's like if you, is that your file, it's hard to explain. Here's an example. You put a container field, like we have a container here, and the container is stored inside FileMaker, so it's an internally stored container. There was a bug in FileMaker once upon a time that when you deleted this record, right, you deleted the record, it should delete the data. What it actually does, it marks the data as no longer being in use, including the container. And then there's a cleanup process that runs that eventually will remove that data out of the file. So when you delete records, it's not immediately just wiping that data off the FileMaker file. It goes in the FileMaker file, this long text thing, and it finds the little elements and it marks them as, hey, this belonged to that record. That record's gone now. Okay, so then in the future when it does maintenance and cleanup, it will then remove it. But initially just flags it as being going away, right? It's like if you're in a contact record, you don't delete someone says, I hate your services, I hate you, Richard, go away, we hate your guts. We don't have a delete in our contact database. We have a couple indicators that we indicate. They're PNG or persona non grata. They are people that really don't like us for whatever reason. We don't want to go near them. So we don't delete them. We want to keep them in there, but we mark them so we know to avoid them or omit them, or if we're sending out an email, they don't get the email, right? Like TK, right? TK is on that list. Just kidding, TK. TK, we love TK. What happened is, imagine a scenario where you tell FileMaker to delete the record. You delete the record. It deletes the text data. It deletes the container, except it doesn't delete the container. It thinks it deleted the container, but it actually doesn't delete the container. The container's still in there, but the record it belongs to is gone, forever gone, okay? And so there's a structural defect that's been in there on and off for years where you delete a container, the data's still in there. And what can happen is that if you run a recover on a file and it has structural defects, the recover command will see the structural defects. It's programmed to identify them. And it will create a table in your system called, I don't even know if it's in this one or not. It'll create a table called recovered library or something like that. I could even go into, I don't know if I can even go into BCA, but you'll go into a FileMaker file and you'll see a table called recovered library. And you didn't tell it to create the table. It created it on its own in the recovered file. And in there will be records in the recovered, records in a field in that recovered library, and they will contain the structural defect items it's found. So you can delete the recovered library if you want, delete it, which is great. But if you recover the file again, it's still there. There's literally no way to remove it. Literally, if like you're this OCD person and you must have everything perfect in life, in the back of your mind, like I have this database, in the back of my mind, I know there's about 5 or 6 graphics. They're not huge graphics. There's probably 200 or 300K of stuff in there, 400K maybe. They're very small images, but I can't get rid of them. The only way to get rid of them is to delete the file out of existence, but it's my main CRM system I developed back years ago. And so a structural defect is not a corruption, it's a known issue. And so what FileMaker does as it's working, it's like word wrap in Microsoft Word, where you're doing text and then you put an image in and it wraps the text around it. FileMaker treats it like a structural defect. It's building and it builds around it. It keeps going, right? We used the analogy yesterday where you're in a big city and they're building new buildings in, and it used to be farm town. It's like the Silicon Valley used to be not silicon, not computer companies, with a bunch of farmland, right? And they bought everyone out. There's still a couple pieces of farmland out in the middle, like in down in LA where Disney's at. There's still a couple Orange County down there, Anaheim. There's still a couple farms down there right in the middle of town. The people refused to sell, and they couldn't get the government to seize the property because private property in the United States is a thing, right? You just can't seize it unless there's a really government has a really great reason, like it needs to build a aircraft carrier or something on that space or something, put a freeway through there, right? But they can't do that for private companies. And so what happens is you have this, so it's a structural defect is like the holdout guy who won't sell you the property. You can't seize it, you can't do anything with it, and so you just build around it. That's what structural defect is. Oh, so the dead bird, people wonder why we call it dead bird database. So the engineers back in the day, they still do, actually it happened about 4 times this last week, as the company gets bigger. So when engineers will sometimes just build things for fun, or they're testing out like a new API or some sort of new thing and they want to play with it. And there were like 3 or 4 of these posted last week. And so we're going to be having a dead bird day in our broadcast. It's going to be a dedicated day. And what it is we grab all the random little sample files. So if you have for those of you who have a cat, you'll understand what I'm saying. If you have a cat and the cat is trying to impress you, it will go out and kill animals and bring them to you to your door. It brings you dead birds, right? And so I have engineers who, to show off how cool they are or how much they know, or they want to share a tool with other people, they will create a little sample file and they'll drag it in and they'll drop it at my feet. And you don't really know what to do with the sample file, and you don't want to like say bad kitty, because if the cat's out there killing rats and snakes and other stuff. I had a cat that would go after rattlesnakes crazy. That cat is now missing suspiciously, but it go out and kill these critters in your backyard. You don't want to say bad kitty, you want to encourage it. Yet what do you do with all the dead things that come to your door? I mean, basically what happens is the cat turns its back, walks off, and we take it and throw it in the trash. Well, I don't want to throw it in the trash because it could be useful. So what do you do with all these things? You create a database called dead birds. So all my engineers bring in dead sample files for me to look at. Oh, it's a good engineer. Pet the engineer. Boss loves you. Right? And then instead of, I don't throw it away, I put it into a box, a junk drawer, where I can dig it back out for future use. So Jonathan Ray this last week, one of our senior engineers, sent 3 or 4 sample files out to the engineers in the company. Andre has done that. Some of you have sent me sample files. Brutterman sent me a sample file. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with the GIS one. That is the conversation about recovered blobs, a very obscure conversation back, and the engineers were talking about that. But it's not corruption. It's just kind of, things bits and pieces they had to build around because they didn't know what else to do with it. Because they couldn't remove the graphic, and because of the way it was structured, so they just leave it in there, right? So anyway, interesting stuff. My file now has a new table called recovered library. Yes, Michael Gravel, that is a structural defect left in there, okay, from something. I can't tell you what, why, or how. I'm just telling you, if you see recovered library, you can disregard it. So he's pointed this out. He recovered his file. So Michael is, everyone's learning stuff. Are we not learning new things here today, folks? Yes? Yes? Learning new things? Michael, I just tasted that to Twitch and to Discord. That's what Michael said. Yeah, so there we go. And that's what that is. It's not, is it a crisis? No. Is it panic? No. Panic is when the file crashes, you don't have a backup. Then you can panic. Okay? Then you can panic. All right, Mirren says, FM 1819 report problems during recover, which earlier versions don't. Mostly it has to do with custom menus. Who do I believe the latest? I would believe the latest version of it. Probably they've improved the recovery process on that some. And so the question is if you're trying to mix versions, I generally try not to do that. I would just stay with the latest one. Because at some point the old one won't work, and then what are you going to do, right? The old version. At some point, FileMaker 16 or 15 or 4, like I have FileMaker 10 installed on one of my computers here. I double click it, it'll run for about 12, 15 seconds, then it crashes every time. But I went back and scavenged all the starter solutions out from the FileMaker 10 days. Those are the starter solutions that my company created before they hired Nick. Nick was just it was a speck in FileMaker's eye. Claire's eye didn't exist. So we went back and resuscitated all those. Nick, of course, hates them, but I think there's some useful utility to them. I always like Star Solutions. People can look at those. So we will make sure that we find a way of posting those for you too as well. So I would look at the new version. I would, if you run a recover, then run the recover command again, and you have custom menus, you might want to delete the custom menus, rebuild them. It just depends if your problem, if you have a noticeable problem. If you do the index rebuild and save a compressed copy and all your problems go away, I wouldn't get excited that the recover, because the recovery could identify problems that you're never going to see. It's not identifying things that you're going to see. It's identifying everything it sees, whether you might ever notice them or not, or whether it's part of a layout that you don't even use anymore or not, or whether it's part of a field that no one uses or not, or a script that. How many people have perfectly clean solutions? Perfectly clean. No abandoned scripts, no abandoned records, no abandoned layouts. So what if it's reporting problems on those? David says, if I have FileMaker 19 server but make changes with FMP 18, will that cause corruption? No. We do it all the time. We use 18 and 9. We use two versions side by side interchangeably all the time. You can use 17 or 18 together, 18 or 19 together. You can use 19 or 20 for those of you who have 20 already. That's a joke. Just kidding. Some of you have been sleeping. Now you're awake, right? So, but no, there is no 20. We haven't seen a 20. But the point is that our servers, we upgrade our servers every other year. So we have some 18 servers. They're probably not going to make it to 19 unless Jacob Taylor decides for some reason he really wants to upgrade them. But normally they'll wait to the next release. So I do servers every other year. The clients we keep up to date because I have to train on it. But I have a couple engineers. I have a couple computers that won't run the 19 client. They're old Macs. They're really in great shape. I still use 18 client on them. And it's in the databases, some of them are on 18, some are on 19. So I never try to update to the latest server. There's always something. I wait till it becomes like a V4. You know what I'm saying? Not like V1, V2, V3, V4. I wait till like it's a 3 or a 4. It's pretty happy, pretty stable. In fact, Jacob will probably talk about that Friday. So welcome everyone. Dave, any final words of wisdom for everyone?
Yes, back up your files. Do the backups, use FileMaker Server, back up your files. It's the best insurance you have.
And then how often should you back the files up?
I've never set up a client with anything less than hourly. It's up to you. How much of your work and your daily business treasure are you willing to give up on a random act of disaster?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Dave, I'm going to send you your tip for the day. There's Dave's tip. We're going to send him a nice $100 bill for his hard work. Thanks, Dave.
Take care, everybody.
Guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected, the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.